You've been listening to the Remotely We Are One podcast. Visit us at remotely1.com/podcast for upcoming episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our episodes on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, don't forget to clock out.
So I wanted to show you this. This is going to mean nothing to most people.
Okay.
But my shot glass, I don't know if you can read it.
Bring it back just a tad. Okay, it says Northern Exposure, Alabama.
Yeah. No, Alaska. It was remember in the 80s there was a TV show called Northern Exposure?
I do. Yes, I do.
This shot glass is from that show.
Well, how'd you do that?
My parents got it when they went out to this place because it was filmed in Washington. My aunt and uncle lived there, and they knew that I liked the show. So there was a gift shop in this town that was actually on the show itself, and they were selling shot glasses, and they brought it back to me, and I'm like, yeah, it's cool, it's a shot glass, but I'm like fucking 12. What am I gonna do with the shot glass?
I'm 12 years old.
And here I am now, and it's like the only shot glass. I got a whole collection of them. This is the only one I ever used. So I guess they were thinking ahead.
Yes, they were. They were thinking ahead. I mean, that's a true Maine gift right there. Here's your shot glass, but I'm only 12. What do? You put milk in it.
Welcome, everyone and all, to Remotely We Really Are One. This is exciting. We really are one today, aren't we, Kaleem?
Oh my gosh, are you serious, bro? 1 year?
We are a whole year into this.
Oh my gosh.
A whole year.
This is just amazing, man. Thank you so much, bro.
Whoa.
What do you think, man? What do you think?
I don't know.
Can you believe
I'm speechless.
12 months? 12 months?
Yeah. Our baby is a year old now.
Call you up after not talking to you for 20-something years, and you're like, fuck yeah, let's do this show.
Yeah, man, this sounds interesting. Hey, I'm going to be honest. I don't know shit about remote work, but I'm going to learn something, right?
Yeah,
and look at me. Look at me. I'm launching companies.
Holy shit.
Man, I've met so many people that I cannot put into words what I have learned over the last 12 months. My mind has been completely opened to a whole new life because of this show. And that's no lie. I am not shitting you or anyone else. My life has completely changed because of Remotely We Are One.
Wow, man. Wow, that's powerful. I'm glad you said yes. And the guest, I'm glad they're saying yes. And I'm glad that the listeners and the viewers are saying yes.
Likewise.
How many downloads we got, sir, over 1 year? I don't know if it's me playing it. It's probably me playing every episode, but I don't care.
Last I checked, we were hovering right around 1,700.
You sons of bitches have downloaded us 1,700 times?
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Willfully. We didn't even have to pay them.
Oh my gosh. Thank you all so much. For reals.
Yeah. This has been the time of my life, and I'm sure I speak for you as well, Kaleem. I can't thank all of our guests enough. I wish we had enough time to go over and comb through every episode and feature everybody that we've interviewed, but we can only have so much time, and we felt like we really needed to highlight a handful of really memorable highlights, and this is what we came up with, and we hope you all enjoy it.
For real. I couldn't say it any better. So I'm not going to, sir. I mean, you're the professional. I'm just here for the fun, bro. I'm the fun. Right. So, Seaman, I'm the fun.
You are the fun.
I want everybody who's listening and everyone who's viewing, I want you to pour your beverage of choice into a little cute glass that's smaller than a normal glass. Some people would call it a shot glass.
Shot glass.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you, Rick, for being my friend.
Yeah. Likewise.
Since before high school. Thank you for answering my call. It's been a really, really great pleasure. I want to thank every listener, viewer. I want to thank our guest. Thank you so much.
And also, most importantly, we got to give a shout out to the people behind the screen who are doing all the technical work, helping us out. Oh my gosh.
Yes, definitely. Give a shout out, Rick. You want me to go out? Stella, thank you so much for editing the videos. On point, doing the video editing.
Caitlin, you're keeping me on point. You're nudging me when when life takes me in new directions. You're like, Rick, get your shit together. We got to upload this.
Caitlin doesn't play?
No.
So, she's great.
So, Stella, Caitlin, you guys rock. Thank you so much.
And Paola, last but not least, sending out the emails, the marketing emails. Yep. Thank you all. So, everyone together, Rick.
Yeah. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Thank you.
Happy 1 year.
Happy 1 year.
Ooh,
booyah! Booyah!
Not enough O's and smooth.
Actually, I had O's. My daughter in the background. She had a beverage of milk. So hopefully you were able to have a beverage of milk or juice or whatever it is,
Yeah, and we are not advocating.
No.
Anybody drinking if they don't want to, if they choose not to, if they can't. Right. That's totally cool.
Especially at 7:30 in the morning, like us right now.
We were just raised different. We're built different.
With cigarettes, lots of cigarettes with the windows rolled up in the car. I mean, that's pretty much how we both grew up. It was wonderful.
Amazing.
So, Rick, what's today's episode about, man? What are we going to do today? We got to do something different.
Well, today's episode is reflection. We are reflecting on some of our favorite, most memorable moments that me personally, I went through this list and I found a handful of people that really inspired me. As you know, this show is more than a tutorial on how to do remote work. We want to inspire people, to find a better work-life integration. And a lot of these people just said it better than I could have possibly imagined. And, we got some funny stories in here too, but we really hit a gold mine with some of these conversations. And I just want to highlight the ones that really stuck out in my memory.
So what's the first clip, Rick? What's the first clip?
So we had a great conversation with Mika Cross. And what I learned really blew my mind because, you think technology, internet, online meetings, all that stuff, that remote work is fairly new. And it is new to a lot of people. But Mika has learned through her work with the federal government that it ain't new. Remote work is actually old.
All right, let's take a listen to what she has to say.
Yeah.
I want to start this answer by just reminding people that telework is not new. Some of the definitions have sort of morphed and evolved over time, but this nation's largest employer, the federal government, has been teleworking in some form or fashion even as early as the 1930s, if you can believe that.
The 30s?
And so well before there was legislation and mandates and policies that kind of officiated this kind of working as a component of what they call in the government alternate work schedules, people were kind of figuring it out. There was a rocket scientist in the 1950s who worked for NASA and would telework from LA and then come back to DC. But yet we've been trying to figure it out. And why on earth is it so slow moving? You can call it whatever you want. It's been called telecommuting, mobile work, telework, flexi place. Now it's hybrid and remote and name it what you will. It's work at the end of the day.
That was just fascinating to me. It's funny when we talk about remote work in the 1930s, me being the historian that I am, all I can picture is these Goombas with their Tommy guns walking around in the fedoras saying, I really wish I worked from home.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Jack Nillis, man. Like, I think that's who she's talking about, who the godfather of what they call telework. And she's absolutely right. I mean, it started in the 1930s, man, and it's been around for a while. And what I loved about Mika's episode and about Mika's personas, we got a chance to meet her in person, and
we did.
She's better in person, yo. She's better in person.
She's dynamite.
Yeah,
she's wonderful.
The energy and like her expertise in the government sector when it comes to remote work.
Of course,
that's unique.
Of course,
that's something different, man. That's something different. So I agree with you. That's a great way to kick this off, man. Great choice, man. Great choice.
Here's how it's gonna be. See, I'm not working in your office anymore. See, and if you don't like it, you're not worth a hill of beans. See.
That's unbelievable, man. So who we got up next, man? What's the next memorable moment,
Well,
man? What's the
we
next
had
one?
the pleasure of communicating with Mr. Chris Ronzio, and his approach to it is, sorry, folks, remote work is here to stay. This is the future.
Let's take a listen to the clip, man. Shit. Here we go.
Do you think remote work is here to stay?
100%. Yeah. Once you've experienced the flexibility that comes with remote work and being able to take your kids to school and eat lunch with your family and take your dog for a walk and log back on and get your work done and have a Zoom meeting and catch up on stuff, it's like everyone's an entrepreneur. Before, when it wasn't remote work, you were kind of at the whim of the company to say, like, here's where you sit, here's the work you do, here's the hours that you come in for. You didn't have that control. And the reason a lot of people go and start their own businesses is because they want the flexibility, they want the control. And what remote work did is it gave everyone instantly, in a week's time, control over their schedule because they
want control.
Yeah. We talk about this all the time. It's like, are you after a better job that pays more, or are you after having more time and autonomy? And we're going to touch on that a little bit later.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I think that's the argument.
Yeah, I just love the way he comes right out and he says, no, it's here to stay.
Yeah.
Like, there was no hesitation. He looked
He
dead
didn't
in
even
the
blink.
camera. He was like, it's 100% here to stay. So he was just like on point with that.
Yeah, this episode also featured one of my favorite laugh out loud moments of the show. I got to tell my favorite dad joke. And every now and then they'll creep out during the show, but this one, I don't know where it came from. It was just perfectly timed, and I've been waiting a while to use it. And he even called me out. He's like, that one's been in the pocket for a while. You've been waiting to use that one, haven't you? Said, yeah.
It's one of my favorite clips too, man. Honestly, so let's take a listen. Let's take a listen.
A good friend of mine was a ticket agent for Continental Airlines up north, and Nancy Kerrigan was a passenger. Everybody was pissed off, as they are in airports, and there was some kind of delay with her flight. Something happened, and she was given some attitude. There was kind of like the celebrity aura around her, and she had some choice words for my friend, and he dropped everything that he was doing, and he looked right at her and he said, "You're on thin ice, Nancy Kerrigan." And everyone in the airport seemed to turn around and go, "Very well, very good, very well done."
That's awesome. He'd been waiting his whole life to say that line.
Yes, he absolutely was, and he was not going to pass up that opportunity. Oh man, yeah, that was one of the first times I really lightened up on camera. When you're doing these things at first, there's an air of tension because you don't know what you're doing, and once people get laughing and you get in the zone, it's like, man, this is great.
Yeah, what was pretty cool is like, the reactions aren't scripted. You know what I'm saying? Like like what we knew is that he had a background in ice skating is all we knew.
Right.
And you were like, oh my gosh, I got a freaking great story to tell for this one. And you had another story, but we chose this other story just for numerous reasons.
Of course.
And you were like, do you think he'll be fine with it? I was like, I don't know, but I was like, and then we were like, well, how old is he? Because we couldn't tell how old he was. Like, is he even going to get who Nancy Kerrigan was?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So then, asking him, and the fact that he knew and explained who Nancy Kerrigan was the best part, in my opinion.
That was fantastic.
It was so good. It was fantastic.
That was awesome.
So who we got up next, man? Who got up next?
So this next episode was with Mini Didakocha, and she was phenomenal. We learned a lot from her, but the key takeaway with that is, are you prepared to what you're about to embark upon? And the only way to know the answer to that is to adopt rather, a remote work mindset.
Yeah.
That was her nugget of wisdom.
Yeah, and honestly, Rick, I was probably one of the most nervous for this episode because at the time, I believe this was our first, for us, international guests where English was a second language. And we were just wondering if, she would get our humor, if the things would come across.
There was a lot of ground there because I knew one of us was going to fuck her name up. And it was going to be like a tongue twister for us. And I'm sure she gets that all the time, but
right.
Yeah, whatever.
It was definitely one of those where I was like, oh shit, like what's going to happen? And it was good, we got her name right actually.
Yes.
And, she respected the fact that we got her name right. So it was pretty cool. Yeah. And this whole idea about mindset, like what she brings up is, it's a really important piece in making a transition, right? Making a transition to something different. So let's hear what she has to say real quick.
What advice would you give for somebody who really wants to make that leap, but hasn't quite done so yet?
First, they have to just adapt their mindset to the remote way of working, because it's totally a different mindset. And they have to be self-disciplined. I think that's the key to remote workers. Even if you wake up late, you have to make sure that you are fulfilling all the requirements that are expected from you, or that you have the self-discipline, self-motivation, because no one's going to tell you to do something. No, you can spend half the time at your desk as long as you get finished with what you need to do, but that has to come with a self-discipline. So you have to balance your personal chores with the professional ones.
I mean, there's no other way to put it. She was just so on point with that whole description that it just made perfect sense. And it also makes perfect sense for our next clip with John Howard, who really nails it home with the reality that you got to ask yourself whether or not this is a role that you can fill. Not everyone is a good remote worker. And I feel like he really hit it home with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think, what I also liked about John is he was just a fun guest.
He was.
Like every guest has been fun. And I know that we're kind of like repeating ourselves over and over saying, oh, this person was fun. I mean, everyone was fun. But like, I just feel like for me, he was the first one I feel that was like the first kind of true hybrid company that we had on. And I just felt like his views were different, where he has a warehouse. He has warehouse workers, and then he also has in-office workers. So, yeah, and the point that he made of, like, not everyone is a good remote worker. So, yeah, I just thought it was a really good clip for what he was saying. So let's hear what he has to say. Where do you see the future of remote work? Do we go back to the way it was before the pandemic?
I'm going to say 80% of the ways to go back. I think there's going to be 20% of the companies go, no, we're still remote, fully remote, always will be remote.
I think I agree with you.
I think the big companies are going to struggle to, it just doesn't make sense, overhead and all that they've done, invested in the way they do business, to just say, let's keep this going. Because a lot of them did see declines in lots of things, metrics. So it's not like, there are a lot of people ruined it for the other people, is my point. Like there wasn't just if you go look at statistics, not everybody's a good remote worker. They might enjoy it, but doesn't mean you're good at it. It doesn't mean you're autonomous. You can work in that thing. So I think that's where I say 80% shifts back. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality that doesn't really, you don't need to dive any further into just understanding that it's not for everybody.
Yeah, and I liked how he was kind of predicting like what's going to happen. Like we asked him, like, what do you think? And he feels like 80% are going to go back to the way it used to be, which that's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people. I personally think that number might be a little high, but things move very slowly. Not as quickly as we might think. And in a sense, it kind of ties into our next guest, Christy DePaul. My takeaway from her episode is that work is not a place. And when you tie in the mentality and work culture and all these things together, it makes you realize that you're not loyal to wherever you are. If you love what you're doing and you can do it anywhere, you're still going to get the work done. That was what I took away from her. In my opinion, is kind of something that's very similar to what John was saying. The people who get the job done are the people who can do the job the best, no matter where they are. And John didn't say that, but that's kind of what I took away from Christy's episode is, the work gets done wherever you're comfortable doing it.
Well, all right, man. Well, let's take a listen to her clip and see what she has to say.
I've been remote since 2013. So I recall in my first office job, right? I was working in a university, and I remember looking out at the quad, and the seasons would change, and like that quad just stayed the same. And every day I had to be there at a certain time, and I had my little coffee machine, and people would stop by and interrupt me.
I remember that shit.
And I just remember thinking, which sounds really antisocial right now, just like, oh my gosh, is this all there is? Is it just going to be this, like, forever and ever, amen, like into the future? Is there nothing else? And I really wanted a future that I had more control over. And then
there's that word again, man.
I didn't like having to get
autonomy,
up and go to a place
control.
every day. And I just thought work isn't a place. It's not. You don't have to be somewhere specifically to add value or to do, something that is a lot of knowledge work. It really doesn't require you to be on site.
She nailed it.
She crushed it. Bro.
Yeah.
Work is not a place.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love about all of our guests is that they're able to say it so succinctly and concisely in a way that I might be thinking the same thing, but these are such pros that it just rolls off the tongue like, oh my God, I couldn't have said it better. And we keep getting that on the show, and it's so amazing to witness. I mean, Josh Morse is a great example. In his episode, he said people who work remote, they just get it. I mean, they just understand, and they understand it so well that they're able to just say it without thinking. Roll the clip of Josh Morse. See if we can pull that up.
All right, let's roll this damn clip.
Something that I strive for that I think's been lacking in my business for the last 23 years that remote work has brought into it is personalization. The people who I want to work with, they don't give a shit about whether a kid walks on a camera or not. The people who I want to work with, they have those same challenges. When you sell to somebody, the thing that makes them like you is to be able to identify something in your life that's a lot like their life. That's a huge sales technique. Wow, that guy has that and I have that. We both have to deal with that problem. That's cool. That's a connection. When the kid's walking in the camera and like me wearing shorts and a dress shirt like I am right now, and it's all funny, it's humanizing, and I think it's humanized the sales process.
Humanized. Yeah. I mean, he didn't even have to think it. He just said it and it came out,
What I love about that clip too is he's talking about this idea of, people who work remotely just get it. And what he was talking about is they just get the idea of being human. Right? And there is a sense of connection. We talk a lot about connection on the show, but there is a sense of connection that you didn't get before.
Right.
Because you get to see your CEO in their home setting.
Right.
You get to see your colleague, right?
Yeah. It's interesting to me that it took people being pushed away from the office to get to know each other a little bit better, to get to understand where everybody was coming from, because you could see their life in the background. And that's just something that I don't think anybody was expecting. And he even used an example. Like he was talking about kids, jumping in the room when he was he was making a pitch or something. Do you remember that? He was pitching like a high-tech CEO or something.
Holy shit.
Do we have that clip somewhere?
Yeah, we do. That's a good one. Let's hear it.
So switching gears a little bit, Josh, share with us something comical that you may have experienced remotely.
I was on a call with a large potential customer. I had been courting this customer for probably solid 6 months to try and get him on the phone to like really have a deep dive into what we do and understand a little bit more about their need. So I was psyched. I had gone out and I told my wife, I was like, listen, I need to put the do not disturb on my office. Please don't have anybody come in. I can't have anybody come in. I put a suit on, like I dressed up for the first time in probably 6 months. I had a great agenda. I prepared my team, probably 6 weeks of preparation for the presentation, the demo, everything. And I felt so good about it because I was friggin' prepared. So halfway through the demo, I'm in the middle of a technology demo. My son comes bursting through the door. And my wife has had to step outside because the dogs had run away or something, and she had to go gather them. And my son walks through the door and he out loud says, "Daddy, I just pooped my pants. And he kept saying it, and I kept trying to find mute, but I couldn't get to mute fast enough.
Please mute.
No.
Please mute.
Everyone on the call is just dying. And some of them, I mean, everyone on the call is dying, and I am mortified. My head went to a shade of tomato, and but again, it goes back to like those humanizing moments. Like, those people will never forget that.
Yeah, and that's exactly the whole point. Like, you know, we're all humans. Yeah. We all shit our pants.
Obviously, we love Josh being from the same town. We've known him for a long time, but like his example and his knowledge were shocking to me, because, you know, you have your personalized friends, and you have, you know, you all have those visions of them as, you know, back in the day or whatever, and then you hear them from their professional side. And he was absolutely just crushing it and explaining it to the realist. You know, you couldn't get any better than that as far as humanizing and personalizing the remote work experience. It was cool, man. It was cool.
Yeah. No, it was, and it was great talking to him, because, you know, we've obviously known each other for a long time, and you know, we're bringing him into this space that we have created. And I feel like another element is not only connecting with people, but rediscovering people. You know, I've never known Josh on a professional level. Right. He was a guy we played football with. His dad was our coach, you know. Yeah. That was very rewarding for me, because it actually meant more, because we had a personal connection. So that was great.
I was impressed, big dog. Good job, Josh.
Yeah.
All right. So who we got next, man? What were we talking about? Ooh, this one. I remember this one.
Leah Nobler. Yeah.
Yeah. First, I couldn't get her name right. Remember, that was fun.
Yeah. That was fun, and she's got an American name. I mean, you know, it's like,
yeah. She was great, man. She was really good. This was an early episode too, wasn't it?
It was, as a matter of fact. We got talking with Leah about a number of things, but what really struck me about that conversation was how, I guess, how people are paid. And the question is, are you paid by where you live, or are you paid for the skills that you have? And I think the conversation, she answered it brilliantly, but it went to a place where something I had never thought of. So yeah.
Location-based pay. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what I remember. We were talking about the idea of whether you should be paid the same based on location, or if you should get paid, you know, if you move along. Yeah. And I just love what she had to say, because she said it so she was so convicted in what she believed in, and it just so happens that the company also believes in the same thing that she believes in. So let's take a listen to what she had to say. What's your thoughts on remote work pay based on location?
Help Scout firmly believes equal pay for equal work. If you're a software engineer in San Francisco, or you're a software engineer in Maine or Iowa or other places,
shout out 207.
You're doing the same job, you should be paid the same. Hard stop. I don't think we should get into the business of making judgments about where people live and their cost of living. If that's their choice and they're able to live somewhere or not able to live somewhere, I don't think that's any of a company's business.
You know, for me, I'm in agreement with Leah on this. I think that people are hired to do a job, and they should be paid accordingly no matter where they are.
I think that it's a lot more complicated than that. There I have to go. That there's a lot of things that go into that could really impact kind of economy and society. We didn't agree on that topic, but hey, she said it with passion, and I love passion. I thought it was a great clip, and I thought my heart agrees with her. Let's just put it that way. My heart does agree with her.
Yeah. No, it was a great point, and it was a great discussion, and I really learned a lot from that. It's something I'd never thought of. So,
do you remember the funny with her was that she hated the sound of people chewing gum?
Yeah.
People chewing. And I was all like, hey, Leia, this is for you one more time. Sorry, Leia. I had to do it. It was just such a fun time then. She's like, what an asshole.
Oh, that was great.
You knew we were coming. We told you this show was going to be a different type of show, Leia. You knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's self-deprecating humor and poop jokes. That's all we got, folks.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So who do we have up next? Liam Martin. That was a very informational episode for me because Liam is a very well-known person in this industry, and he was dropping knowledge nuggets left and right. But what he offered was entrepreneurship 101. You know, you have to know the basics, because working from home, you might have a boss somewhere else, but you're on your own. You know, if it's a legit remote job, you're your own boss.
Yeah, Liam's amazing, bro. You know, he's the co-founder of Time Doctor, which is a software company, and then he runs one of the larger conferences from remote called Running Remote. And what he had to say about like just time and task, I think that's what he's talking about like how time, you know, the amount of work that you have always kind of expands in the time that you have. So let's take a listen to what he has to say.
The amount of work that you have expands into the time you have to do it.
There it is.
So if you say, I'm going to run a conference in 30 days, or I'm going to run a conference in 11 months, generally, you're going to actually not have that much of a delta between the quality of the 1 month event and the 11-month event. You're just going to figure out how to get it done. This is like entrepreneurship cheat code 101. And I said, all right, I'm going to book a venue. I was in Bali, and worst case scenario, a couple friends of mine are going to come to speak at the conference, and I end up losing, you know, $100,000 or something like that. Thankfully, I didn't. We ended up actually making a very small amount of money.
Yeah, he was talking about planning events and, you know, convention elements and that kind of thing. So, you know, in a sense, it was a little bit different. But what I took away was, you know, we're all on the same page. Just get it done. You know, you have to do it. You know when the deadline is, and nobody is going to say, "Hey, according to my calendar, you're 37 days from completion. Where are you at?" You know, I mean, it's
important for people to hear, even just from, you know, if you're in the people ops space and you're planning a retreat, or, you know, you have to basically manage your time, and a lot of times the amount of tasks that have to happen are the same. Right. So, you know, if you only have a few days, get it done. Like just plow through and get it done. And I think that was a big thing, a very helpful quote for me at the time, because we were kind of planning our own type of event, and I was kind of pressed for time. So it was helpful for me specifically, man. Yeah, definitely. So who we got next, man? Who we got next up on the docket?
I want to shout out to Jordan Carroll.
Jordan, what's up, baby?
Our remote job coach. He's got a great thing going. If you're looking for or thinking about getting into the industry, he is your guy. That is your starting point. And he really threw out some great advice. I think I might have asked him, you know, where at the time I wasn't a remote worker and I didn't know where to start. And he basically said, get involved or become a customer of the company that you want to work for.
Such great advice, isn't it?
You know, that never even entered my wheelhouse. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, man. Let's kind of take a look at it, man. Let's take a look.
When I first started traveling in early 2018, I did a program with the full intention of eventually working for the company, and it worked out. So I ended up going on the program, then I get the job, and the thing is...
so you went on the program, you paid for it yourself.
Yeah, and that's a strategy too that I teach my job seekers, is anytime that you can become a customer of a target organization, say that you want to work remotely for Zapier, for instance, you better as hell have a Zapier account and be trying it out and using it and be part of their ecosystem. Like, understand the customer relationship that they have, jump on their newsletter. Like, you want to do the things that put you in their world. So that was like obvious to me, although I know that for a lot of job seekers that I work with, these kind of things aren't so obvious. So that's why I started realizing, I got to teach this.
Wow. I mean, that is so on point. You know?
I never thought of that. And I've been in this space for a minute, man.
Yeah. It's funny because, you know, as well as our listeners, I've been in the beer business for a long time. And I'm, you know, now I'm at the point where I'm thinking, you know, have I been doing this for too long? You know, what are my real passions? And the moment he came out with those nuggets, I started writing down like all of my interests and all of the companies that represent the things that I'm passionate about, you know, music companies, publishers, you know, different things like that. Make sure I'm taking notes saying, see if they have any remote positions, see if this guy, and that's what I've been doing. And it has made my job search so much easier. Just because now I know what I'm looking for. And the other thing too is what he is saying. If it's a company you love, whether it's the products or the customer service you get, that shit reflects. And what it does is it builds your trust into knowing that this is a really good outfit. Okay.
Right.
And
right.
What that tells me is that I love, I don't work there. I don't even know these people, but I can tell they have an amazing culture because every person I have dealt with has been incredibly outgoing, helpful, hospitable, whatever positive spin you want to put on it. And that actually kind of ties in with our next guest, Rachel Lanham. Her whole thing was
Rachel.
Yeah. I mean, remember she talked about, good culture. What is a good culture? What is it like working with a good culture, a difference that it can make? And I just thought, what a great segue into Rachel's episode of having that's the one thing you offer is an amazing culture.
Well, let's hear it, bro. I mean,
yeah.
Let's just hear what she has to say. Let's see it.
It really is your values and how work gets done. Those are really what you're talking about. How does work get done each day? What do you say is important to you? And that's really what culture is. It's not obviously the snacks and the ping pong tables and all the perks, but I think of the past, that's really what culture was. It was like, what's your culture? Oh, we have happy hours on Thursdays and we have free lunch on Wednesdays. And it's like, no, that's not your culture, but it's kind of like a crutch. And I think when people say it's missing or it's eroding, it's like, oh, it's those little moments that happened when we're standing around the coffee machine, or we all had first Thursday happy hour or whatever it is. People are trying to describe that, those little intangible those points of connection. And then they blanket, call it culture. So I love your term of employee experience.
Rachel was great, man.
That was a fun episode.
It was super fun. So back to the culture thing real quick before I talk about my favorite part. I love how she basically just said it's not the ping pong table. It's a small piece of it, but it's a lot of things and it's complicated,
Yeah. I visit one of my clients here in Charlotte. They've got 3 different break rooms that have beer taps in them. And, they've got the ping pong tables and the arcades and, that kind of stuff. But they're always, I'm not going to say they're always empty, but the low number of people that I see occupying those spaces when I'm there is astounding. And it's like, well, if these perks are so awesome, why isn't everybody in here? If they can be,
Right.
And this is something I would never say to the client, but I have to ask, was all this effort really worth it if nobody's using them? What's missing, right?
Yeah.
Not that anything is, because I don't know.
We don't know, but something, those other things that she was talking about that make the culture is what brings the people together. So I think it was just such a important message to hear. And then obviously, in the pre-show, we're just hanging out with her, and for some reason we were just started talking about Aaron and the Chappelle skits, and that was she did it. So I mean, she knew exactly what we were talking about right away. So
insubordinate and churlish.
Go back and take a listen to that episode if you want to give yourself a good chuckle if you're a fan of Chappelle show. So
no, that was Key and Peele. Aaron was Key and Peele.
Oh my God! Listen to me. I'm just mixing shit up. Just mixing up the Chappelle show. Sorry about that, David Chappelle. Sorry about that. Key and Peele is not you. Okay.
Right. So as you can see, we like to laugh on this show, and we hope you laugh with us as well. Our next guest had us in stitches, and he wasn't even trying to be funny. That's what I love the most about this cat, is that he was just a naturally funny guy that just wanted you just wanted to talk to him more. And I wish we had more time with Justin Mitchell, because he had some really good insights about async communication and keeping it calm and setting the tone and whatnot. But he also had some really kick-ass stories that, we shared on LinkedIn, and our YouTube counts have gone up because of that one episode. But Yeah, Justin had some really great insight on asynchronous communication.
Yes, that's right. Okay, it took me a second to remember. Took me a second to get there. I mean, let's just hear what Justin has to say. Let's go.
So async communication is purposefully delayed communication, where you're saying, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and then I'm going to leave, and then I'm going to come back to it, and maybe you've replied by that point in time. So it's an it can wait mentality. That's what we talk about. It's this idea that, like, if you run your company a certain way, you don't have to have instant pants on fire communication all the time. You can actually run your company in a calm, it can wait mentality. And that means that I say what I want to say when I have my time and my availability and I feel it's important, but you don't have to answer right away. You can listen to it a couple times, form a good opinion, maybe get some supporting documentation, and then you can show me when you have time what your thoughts are. And we go back and forth like that, and it's calm, right? It's brought down a little bit.
I love this episode, babe. Smooth, baby.
I love it. I forgot about that. Smooth, baby.
Ooh, calm and smooth like Snoop Dogg, baby. Oh yeah, shit, we're cracking our own selves up. You know what, everybody, listeners and viewers, if no one's gonna listen, we're at least gonna make ourselves laugh. I mean,
you know, my wife's has an aunt she's kooky and crazy, but everybody loves being around her because she's so much fun. And every now and again, she'll stop and look right at you and go, no one's going to make your fun for you. You got to do it yourself.
What great advice.
Yeah.
But like, honestly, what great advice he just gave, right? Like the idea of being calm. And if you work in async, what that allows that person to do, like collect their thoughts, provide some supporting documentation on like your point of view. That changes the way you communicate. And that's why I feel like sometimes remote is better sometimes than in person, because it forces you to follow these guidelines, right? Really good view on that.
And I have the time now to chew on it, and I'm going to before I respond. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And then of course,
having someone hovering over you.
Right. Just waiting. Answer me now. Right. Answer me now, you know? But
you know, the thing about Justin is that he has such an entertaining way of explaining things, and we got to roll this other clip because you can't make this shit up. It's amazing, you know?
Yeah.
Roll the clip about the light bulb.
All right, here we go.
We're all sitting in the hotel. We're having this insanely in-depth conversation about like evolution and like origin of life and whether God exists. It was very like deep, right? And out of nowhere, someone just enters our hotel room and just looks at us and goes, "Hey, boys, do you need a light bulb?" And just walks over to the kitchen table and starts replacing our light bulbs. And we're like, "Dude, what are you doing? Like, you just walk into someone's hotel room. Like, how did you get in here?" He's like, "Well, I'm the maintenance guy." We're like, "You didn't even knock. You just opened the door and offered us a light bulb." We're all like freaking out. We're like, that is not okay. Or we like call the front desk and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's Jim. He does that."
That's Jim.
That's just Jim.
That is not okay at all.
That's what Jim does.
That's what Jim does. That's what Jim does. Holy shit, man.
That was just such a shining moment on this show. And, you know, for no reason other than the fact that it made us chuckle.
I mean, like, it's not even like the funniest story in the world, but like, I'm kind of painting the picture of them, number one, sitting in a room, you know, talking about the world of life. That shit is funny in itself. But then just somebody just walk in saying, "You need a light bulb?"
Hey, who needs a light bulb?
Oh, don't worry. That's just Jim. That's what Jim does.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a great guest, man. Great guest.
But, you know, these are the stories and the experiences that stand out with people. And the things that you remember are also the things that you're going to come back to later and talk about in other instances. And we're going to remember that story, and it's always going to come up. But he was with his coworkers, and that's an experience that they're going to remember together as a team. Like, that's something that they did that happened to them. And it's the perfect lead into our conversation with Ben Witter, who is also a fascinating character.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, and his whole thing was about the overall employee experience, right? It was, you know, what is it, good or bad, that you're going to experience while you're here?
Yeah, and this is another situation where I was a little starstruck.
Me too.
I reached out to this person, my partner, the CEO, Jennifer Cameron. She read his book years ago on the employee experience, and I just reached out just out of pure freaking no way this person's ever going to respond. And his assistant reached out. He is Mr. Employee Experience. Just take a listen to this clip of how he defines what the employee experience is like. If you had to give a definition for our listeners of what the employee experience is, what's your quick definition of what that is?
For people outside of the field, I would say experience is literally everything. So it's every interaction, every moment, every single experience you have within the organization. And that's essentially it. Now, that could be a high quality experience or it could be a low quality experience, but that experience is going to deliver outcomes, positive or negative. So experience is literally everything that you come into contact with in an organization. If you're a leader or practitioner, I would give a different definition, which is it's a high value, integrated, end-to-end experience that is creating exceptional business and human outcomes.
There it is.
So
again.
It's really about creating a stronger connection with people.
Connections. Yeah.
Do you hear that? Creating a stronger connection with people, an end-to-end experience.
And that's what keeps people in their element, right? If it's a bad experience, they bounce.
Right. Ben, thank you so much for that. And, I think what's great about this, and this is kind of wrapping up, our clips here, is that today's version of complete freedom, Rick, it's different. You have the great grandparents who are working just to survive, right? And then you have the Industrial Revolution where people are like, oh, I'm working to survive as well, but I want a little bit better working conditions. And now we're at a situation where it's like, we're not working to survive or better working conditions. We expect this. Those things, like our great grandparents and our parents have already done that stuff. No, we want better things. And today's version of complete freedom, it's autonomy. It's about being able to do your job when it fits within your life, work-life integration, Yeah,
that's a great term. I love the term integration. And, at the end of the day, it's really about, we all deserve an elevated work-life integration. And that's what we try to accomplish on this show with the conversations we are having with all of these professionals. It's, here's how all these magnificent people are doing it. And we're telling our audience, look at their life and look what they're doing. This is proof that it's being done right now. Here's how you do it. That's the end goal for us. It's like we want to inspire all of these people to do what all of our guests are doing.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And Rick, to me, for our viewers and our listeners, we're going to continue to keep bringing in these guests. If you all have some guests that you want to hear, we want you to reach out to us. But I'm really excited for what the future holds for us. We're going to be doing some more things, doing some more content, maybe even some short form and long form content. And really, we just want to be the voice, right? We want to be the voice to kind of tell these stories in different formats of people who have kind of achieved this freedom, this autonomy, this idea of working when it's good for them, this flexibility, this work-life flexibility. So I'm just really geeked up.
I am geeked up as well. And I think what it really all comes down to, and if I were to pinpoint, an underlying message here, it's the fact that, you can always make more money. There's always opportunities to make more money, but you're never going to get the time back.
Never going to get
time
it
is
back.
linear. Time is linear.
Get it back. We haven't figured that out yet.
Right. So we know that time is moving forward. There's no rewind button. Okay. So if we want to make the most of the time that we have, we got to figure this shit out. And that all of a sudden has become more important than making money. You can't take money with you when you're dead. I mean, it's not going to happen. Yeah. And you're out of time to make that change, right?
Right.
So the question becomes, am I working to live or living to work?
Wow, Rick. That's powerful, sir. That's powerful, man. Thank you so much for that. This wrap-up's unbelievable, and I can't wait to tell more of these stories. Thank you, man. It's been great.
Well, thank you for the invite a year ago when I didn't know what I was doing. Still don't know what I was doing, but sometimes I make it look like I do. That's important. This has been a great journey so far. The trip to DC was incredible. Relead was awesome. And I'm looking forward to doing this more, interviewing more people, traveling. You know, this is my life now. This is what we're going to do. And let's kick this into high gear, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you all so much. Remotely, we are one. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Take care. You've been listening to the Remotely We Are One podcast. Visit us at remotely1.com/podcast for upcoming episodes. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and download our episodes on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, don't forget to clock out.